The Exile's Crucible. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with the light of 1,000 stars, its crystalline dome reflecting the combined glow of representatives from 300 species. Captain Maya Chen stood at attention, her back rigid and her face expressionless despite the storm raging within her. She had suspected what was coming, but nothing could have prepared her for the weight of this moment. The motion passes with a vote of 287 to 13, announced Supreme Councilor Varix, his 8 limbs raised in a gesture of finality. Humanity is hereby restricted to their home system of Sol, effective immediately. All human vessels must return to Earth within 30 standard cycles. Any human found beyond the quarantine line will be subject to immediate detention. Maya's fingers curled into her palms, nails biting into flesh. 20 years of diplomatic missions, scientific exchanges, and cultural integration, gone in a single vote. The representatives from Altair and Procyon, Earth's staunchest allies, slumped in their seats. The 13 votes against quarantine had not been enough. The Council has determined that human unpredictability and aggressive expansion represents an existential threat to galactic stability, continued Varix, his multifaceted eyes not even glancing in Maya's direction. This is not punishment, but preservation. Not punishment, Maya thought bitterly. Confining 7 billion souls to a single system with depleted resources after we've spent generations building colonies across 20 worlds. 3 days later, Maya stood in the docking bay of Proxima Station, watching as technicians dismantled her ship, the ESS Horizon, once the pride of Earth's fleet, now being stripped for parts that would service the vessels of species that still enjoy the Council's favor. "They're taking everything, aren't they?" said Commander Eli Costa, her second in command, his voice hollow. "Not everything," Maya replied, her hand resting on the data core hidden in her uniform pocket. "Not what matters most." Back on Earth, the initial shock gave way to a grim determination. The planet had already weathered climate catastrophes, resource wars, and the painful birth of a unified government. This new challenge would not break them. In the underground chamber beneath what had once been NORAD, the Phoenix Initiative was born. Leaders from Earth and the suddenly abandoned colonies gathered around a table made of actual wood, a luxury in a galaxy where most furniture was grown, not built. "They've made a critical mistake," said Director Amara Okafor, her weathered face illuminated by holographic displays, showing the withdrawal of human ships from across the galaxy. "They think they know us, but they've only seen what we've shown them." Admiral Lucius Reese, his uniform still bearing the insignia of Earth's now disbanded Space Force, nodded in agreement. "The Council believes that by restricting our movement, they're neutralizing a threat. What they've actually done is focus our attention and resources, and remove the constraints of their regulatory oversight," added Dr. Sanjay Kapoor, the physicist whose theories on quantum displacement had been deemed too dangerous by Council scientists just months earlier. "Exactly," said Amara, her finger tracing a path through the star map. "We have one advantage. They think they know our technological capabilities." In the years that followed, humanity retreated from the stars, at least visibly. The last human vessels limped home, carrying refugees from colonies now abandoned. Earth groaned under the weight of billions of returnees. Food shortages and housing crises dominated the news cycles. But beneath the surface, literally beneath the surface, everything changed. In vast underground complexes extending deep into Earth's crust, and in hidden facilities on Luna, Mars, and the moons of Jupiter, human scientists worked without the restraints of Council regulations. Technologies that had been theoretical were now pursued with desperate intensity. Dr. Kapoor's quantum displacement drive moved from simulation to prototype in 18 months, work that would have taken decades under Council oversight. Neural interfaces that the Council had banned as potentially consciousness-altering became standard for specialized operators. Molecular manufacturing reached efficiencies that transformed resource scarcity from crisis to mere inconvenience. "We're not just catching up. Maya told Eli 5 years into the quarantine, as they stood in a lunar facility watching the construction of a ship that defied conventional understanding of physics. "We're leapfrogging." The ship, designated Phoenix 1, incorporated everything the Council had feared about human ingenuity. Its hull was composed of self-repairing nanomaterials. Its propulsion system utilized Dr. Kapoor's quantum displacement theory, allowing it to effectively vanish from one point in space and reappear at another without traversing the distance between. Its computer systems were partially organic, grown rather than assembled, and it was completely undetectable to Council sensors. In the 7th year of quarantine, Maya, now Admiral Chen, made first contact with the Valkyrie, a species that had been relegated to the fringes of Council space centuries earlier due to their supposedly aggressive tendencies. "The Council fears what it cannot predict," said Kavesh, the Valkyrie ambassador, his scaled skin reflecting the blue light of the conference room aboard Phoenix 1. "They tolerate those who follow their path of development, but species like ours, and yours, who pursue alternative technologies are seen as threats." "We've discovered several species in similar situations," Maya replied. "Quarantined, restricted, or simply ignored because their approach to science or society doesn't match Council standards." That meeting marked the beginning of the Shadow Coalition, an alliance of species that operated beyond Council awareness. The Valkyrie brought their expertise in biological engineering. The crystalline foliae, confined to a single star system due to their disruptive thought patterns, contributed their unparalleled quantum computing capabilities. The nomadic Gen never even offered Council membership due to their refusal to establish permanent settlements, provided knowledge of uncharted regions beyond Council space. For humanity, these alliances were transformative. Technologies melded and evolved at rates that would have horrified the Council. The quantum fold drive, an evolution of Dr. Kapoor's original design, moved from theory to practical application in just 3 years. Ships could now traverse the galaxy in days rather than weeks or months. Production facilities hidden in asteroid belts and within the atmospheres of gas giants churned out vessels, weapons, and technologies that no Council species had ever imagined. A shadow fleet took shape, crewed by humans and their allies, moving through space undetected by Council monitoring systems. "We're almost ready," Maya told the Phoenix Initiative Leadership Council, now expanded to include representatives from 7 non-human species. "The question is, what do we want?" Admiral Reese, his hair now white, but his eyes still sharp, leaned forward. "Revenge would be easy. The Council's military forces are scattered across thousands of worlds. They haven't fought a real war in millennia. We could strike key worlds before they even realized what was happening, and become exactly what they feared," countered Dr. Kapoor. "No, our goal must be recognition, not just for humanity, but for all species the Council has marginalized." Amara Okafor, now well into her 80s, nodded slowly. "We don't want to destroy the Council. We want to transform it." In the 10th year of quarantine, as Council sensors detected no unusual activity within the Sol system, and Council analysts reported that humanity had finally accepted its containment, the Phoenix Initiative activated its final phase. Throughout human history, the most dangerous moment often came not when an enemy attacked, but when they believed there was no threat at all. The Council was about to learn this lesson. The Rising Phoenix. 20 years after the quarantine began, Councillor Varick stood at the same podium where he had announced humanity's containment. His carapace had dulled with age, but his authority remained undiminished. The matter before the Council seemed routine. Reports of unusual energy signatures near the Cygnus Void, a region of space largely ignored due to its distance from established trade routes. "Preliminary analysis suggests natural phenomena," Varick stated. "However, given the proximity to the Valkyrie exclusion zone, I recommend increasing patrols in adjacent sectors." What Varick didn't know, what no Council member knew, was that the energy signatures were neither natural nor Valkyrie in origin. They were the quantum echoes of humanity's shadow fleet, now numbering over 1,000 vessels, moving into position for their return to galactic society. On the bridge of the ESS Phoenix Ascendant, Admiral Maya Chen watched as the final coordinates were locked into the fleet's navigation systems. 2 decades of preparation had transformed her from a captain watching her ship being dismantled to the commander of the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Fleet Commander Eli Costa, now her equal in rank if not in authority. "The coalition forces are in position as well." Maya nodded, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun. "Send the signal." Across Council space, from the commercial hub of Altair Prime to the administrative center at Centauri, quantum receivers, smuggled into place over years by operatives of the Shadow Coalition, activated simultaneously. On every world with Council presence, on every station, on every major vessel, displays shifted to show a single image: a phoenix rising from flames, stars clutched in its talons. "People of the galaxy," Maya's voice echoed across 1,000 worlds. 20 years ago, the Galactic Council determined that humanity posed a threat to the established order. They confined us to our home system, stripped us of our colonies, and expected us to wither away in isolation. The Council's emergency session convened within hours, but by then, reports were already flooding in. Unidentified ships had appeared in orbit around major worlds. Quantum distortions were disrupting traditional FTL communications, and most alarmingly, vessels matching no known configuration had neutralized the defensive capabilities of multiple Council military outposts without firing a single shot. "This is impossible," Verix insisted as reports continued to accumulate. Human technological development was carefully monitored. "They cannot have achieved this level of advancement." "Evidently, we were wrong," replied Counselor Tepila of Vulcan, one of the few who had opposed the quarantine 2 decades earlier. "The question now is what they intend." The answer came 3 days later, when Commander Eli Costa arrived at Centauri Prime aboard a diplomatic vessel. Unlike the military ships that now held position throughout Council space, this one made no attempt to conceal its approach. In the Council's reception chamber, Eli stood tall, his uniform bearing insignia unknown to the assembled representatives. "Humanity does not seek war," he began, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. "Nor do we seek revenge for our treatment. What we seek is recognition, not just for ourselves, but for all species that have been marginalized by Council doctrine." "You speak of recognition while your fleet threatens our worlds," Verix demanded. "Our fleet has neutralized military capabilities that might have been used against us before dialogue could begin," Eli countered. "No lives have been lost. No property has been damaged. We demonstrated our capabilities precisely so that this conversation could happen without fear clouding judgment." The negotiations that followed were tense, with the Council initially insisting on the withdrawal of human forces before any substantive discussions. But as reports confirmed that human technology far exceeded Council capabilities, and that several formerly marginalized species had aligned with Earth, reality gradually set in. Crisis came at Proxima Station, where 19 years earlier, Maya had watched her ship being dismantled. A Council military commander, refusing to accept the new reality, attempted to deploy ancient but devastating weapons against a human settlement ship. The weapons never activated. Quantum field disruptors, installed years earlier by Shadow Coalition operatives, rendered them inert. The Council's attempted show of force revealed the truth. The balance of power had already shifted. 3 weeks into the crisis, as Council worlds began experiencing shortages due to disrupted trade routes, a faction within the Council pushed for a different approach. Led by species that had maintained good relations with humanity before the quarantine, they proposed a restructuring of galactic governance, one that would include humanity and its allies as equals. Verix and his supporters rejected this proposal and attempted a military solution, dispatching the Council's reserve fleet to Earth. What they didn't know was that the Shadow Coalition had anticipated this move. The fleet emerged from FTL to find itself surrounded by vessels of human, Vicari, and Tholari design, each more advanced than anything the Council had fielded. No shots were fired. There was no need. The Council fleet commanders, recognizing the futility of their position, stood down. The final confrontation took place at Centauri Prime, where Admiral Maya Chen herself arrived to address the full Council. 20 years after being forced to watch her ship dismantled, she now commanded a force that could have reduced the Council's seat of power to rubble. Instead, she offered peace. The galaxy stands at a crossroads, she told the assembled representatives. The old order, built on uniformity and control, has reached its end. But what replaces it is not chaos. It is genuine cooperation between diverse species, each contributing their unique perspectives and technologies. The galactic concord that emerged from those negotiations transformed interstellar relations. The Council was not abolished but reconstituted, with membership open to any sentient species regardless of their technological approach or social organization. Decision-making shifted from centralized control to collaborative governance. Humanity did not seek to rule. Having experienced marginalization, Earth's leaders understood the importance of genuine equality. Instead, they became the cornerstone of a new galactic community, one built on the principle that diversity of thought and approach was not a threat, but the greatest strength any civilization could possess. As the quarantine barriers came down and humanity's ships openly traversed the stars once more, Admiral Maya Chen stood on the observation deck of the Phoenix Ascendant, watching the combined fleet of former adversaries now moving in coordination. "Was it worth it?" asked Eli, joining her at the viewport. 20 years of preparation for this moment. Maya considered the question, thinking of all they had sacrificed and all they had gained. "We could have struck back in anger," she said finally. "We could have become the threat they feared. Instead, we transformed not just ourselves, but the galaxy." Beyond the viewport, the stars stretched to infinity, no longer bound by artificial constraints. Humanity had been cast out, forced to forge their own path, and in doing so, had created something greater than anyone could have imagined. Not an empire of conquest, but a union of equals. Not dominance, but partnership. Not the power to destroy, but the strength to build. The universe would never be the same.